Good morning. This is the Energy and Carbon Management Commission. It is Wednesday, January 28th at 9 a.m. And this is our business agenda for the week. We will start with the roll call.
Thank you, Commissioner Ackerman,
Here.
Commissioner Cross,
Present.
Commissioner Mesner,
Here.
Commissioner Oath,
Here.
Commissioner Robbins.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have 5 commissioners present.
Good morning to all 5 of you, as well as to our hearings manager and to the folks that are listening in. We have 53 participants so far. We have a bit of a short of agenda, but let's get through it. We start with commissioner comments. Does any commissioner have comments? Commissioner Cross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to keep everyone abreast of what's been going on. If you recall, on the September 17th meeting, when we had the petition for rulemaking from Wild Earth Guardians and other stakeholders, we agreed to create a couple working groups, and I was put in charge of the working group to discuss potential process changes, guidance, and et cetera, related to the Form 2B. We had our first meeting yesterday, and so I want to again thank all the members of the working group who have committed additional time in their busy schedules to meet for that. And we have our next meeting scheduled for February 24th.
Great. Thanks for that update. Appreciate it. Others with comments? All right. We roll into general public comment. I believe we had one public commenter. If we could bring, I think it was Mr. Clayham to the table.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, good morning. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Brad Clefane. I'm a co-lead of the Conservation Committee of the Colorado Native Plant Society. I guess my video isn't showing up.
It is now. Yeah, we can see you.
Yeah, thank
Welcome.
you. Okay. I was involved in the mission change rulemaking back in 2020, as a number of you commissioners know. And I was a member of the first Biological Resources Working Group. I now understand that the second Biological Resources Working Group is undertaking its meetings. And 2 weeks ago, I contacted Commissioner Ackerman, asking him to be put on the mailing list for the meetings so I could observe as a member of the public and as a stakeholder, not to participate, but to observe. And he got back with me and said that there would be chances for public input, but that they have not been scheduled yet. I believe that this is not in the spirit or the letter of the Colorado Sunshine Act, that as an advisory group to the commission, the Biological Resources Working Group should be covered under that statute. So while I appreciate his offer to receive advance notice under Section 7 of the Sunshine Act, it seems to me that that as an advisory body, the working group is also subject to Section 2, which says, if I can pull it up here, all meetings of 2 or more members of any state public body at which any public business is discussed are declared to be public meetings open to the public at all times. So I would again ask to receive notice of the Zoom meetings and to be allowed to observe. I'm not asking to participate, as I know I'm not a member of the working group, but the Sunshine Act, I believe, should cover the activities of the working group. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clayton, and I apologize if I mispronounced your last name. Appreciate the comments. The Sunshine Act does not apply to this working group because there's only one commissioner that is involved. So that's not two or more, it's one. And there are reasons why it makes sense to be able to have a working group meet and be able to have frank discussions and then report back to the commission as a whole. And when that report back to the commission occurs, that is a meeting of the commission, and then all of us would be available to entertain options, et cetera. No decisions are being made by the working group. It is a working group to basically work through issues. So appreciate the comments. Hope you understand the rationale. We're trying to do what's best for the state of Colorado, and we will let you move on to your day.
Well, thank you, sir. I do not agree with that rationale, but I understand what you're saying.
All right. And I have my attorney general present if necessary to vindicate the approach that we're taking here. We're not trying to hide anything. We're just trying to do good business for the law of the state. AG Boudreau, would you like to weigh in at all?
I don't have much to add to what you had to say, Mr. Chairman. I agree that if two or more members of the commission were present, then open meetings law would apply. But it's my understanding Biological Resources Working Group only has one commissioner on it. And it's also my understanding that the working group intends to report back to the commission, at which point it would become subject to open meetings law.
Yeah. And again, we're not making, I mean, we can't make any decisions because there's only going to be one commissioner in the working group. We're just trying to work through issues. We have a number of different working groups, and this is the approach we've taken. It allows us to have commissioners bring subject matter expertise individually to different topics, such as the one Mr. Cross spoke to earlier today. It is not in any manner a means to be non-transparent. It's a matter of trying to get things done and then bring it back to the commission for full meetings and full public participation. So again, appreciate you being with us this morning. We'll ensure that you're able to monitor the working group and what they're doing, and we'll make sure that you're aware of the time that they may be reporting back to the commission.
All right, I guess we'll have to agree to disagree. Thank you.
Sometimes that happens. All right, we now will move to consent agenda. Does anyone have questions on consent? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve consent?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any no votes? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously. All right, we now will move to docket 2505-00095, an oil and gas development plan by PDC Energy. It's called the Fairfield OGDP. I believe we're going to hear from the ECMC location assessment specialist first. That's Julie Rothy, followed by Brett Cavanaugh from Weld County, and then PDC Energy. Do we have Miss Rothy? And I hope I've got that last name pronounced correctly.
Ms. Rothy and Mr. Kavanaugh are joining as we speak.
All right, let's hear from both of them, and then we might take a quick break to get the rest of the witnesses sworn in. Good morning, Miss Rothy.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Julie Rothy, and I'm the lead location assessment specialist for the PDC Fairfield OGDP. Thank you for the opportunity to address two typos in the published director's recommendation. In the sixth paragraph of the proposed development section, the post-interim reclamation acreage of the Ollie Federal 6N 65W9 location was incorrectly noted and should read 1.49 acres. Additionally, this paragraph refers to the access road for this location incorrectly. The access road for this location connects off of Weld County Road 41. These corrections to the director's recommendation do not change staff's recommendation for conditional approval. Thank you for the time to address this for the record, and I am happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you very much for the corrections. Do we have any questions? All right, those changes are noted for the record, and we thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Mr. Kavanaugh from Will County, welcome.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, and we can see you too.
Perfect. I know sometimes my audio isn't great. Well, good morning, commissioners. I want to thank you for the opportunity to address Weld County WOGA process for PDC's Fairfield Oil and Gas Development Plan, which includes all three of these locations, the Carrot Federal and 6 North 65 West 17, the Ollie Federal and 6 North 65 West 9, and the Monson Federal 6 North 65 West 20. OJED held a pre-application meeting on February 12th, 2025 with PDC, Weld County staff, ECMC, CDPHE, the BLM, and CPW were all in attendance. The 1041 WOGLA applications were received on May 29th of 2025. No public comments or interventions were submitted for the Ollie or the Monson locations. One intervention was filed, though, and approved for the Carrot location, and all concerns were resolved by PDC prior to the hearing, resulting in withdrawal of the intervention by the intervening party. The 1041 WOGLA hearing for all three locations was held on August 14th, 2025, and the applications were approved by the hearing officer. The final orders were recorded with Weld County Clerk and Recorder, and they were noticed in the Greeley Tribune on August 27th, 2025, creating a vested property right pursuant to Article 68 of Title 24. The approved 1041 WOGLA permits incorporate PDC's commitments to best management practices. As outlined in the applications, protect public health, safety, welfare, and the environment and wildlife of Weld County. The permits are valid for 3 years, during which construction must commence unless an extension is approved by Weld County. Because the 1041 WOGLA process is complete and final orders have been issued, recorded, and published, Weld County has no other further concerns with the pending ECMC permit and recommends approval.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kavanaugh. Do we have questions? Well, we again appreciate you being with us. We appreciate the local government perspective. It's part and parcel of the work we do. So thank you very much, and we will let you off to the rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Wazelinski, do you want to raise your witnesses and we'll get Mr. Boudreau to swear them in?
Yes, thank you, Chair. They are all here on the hearing. We've got 8 in total. Looks like they're all turning cameras on and ready to be sworn in.
Thank you. So I see some new names on here, or names that I haven't seen before. So please forgive any mispronunciations. I'll ask each of the witnesses to be visualized. When I call your name, please raise your hand, state your first and last name, and swear to tell the truth. Tammy Waters.
Tammy Waters, I swear to tell the truth.
Corey Shahan.
Corey Sheehan, I swear to tell the truth.
Mike Keller.
Michael Keller, I swear to tell the truth.
Marcus Manning.
Marcus Manning, and I swear to tell the truth.
Patricia Minerick.
Tricia Meinerich, I swear to tell the truth.
Tyler Blessing.
Tyler Blessing, I swear to tell the truth.
Tyler Sims.
Tyler Sims, I swear to tell the truth.
Laura Gromadsky.
Laura Gramadsky, I swear to tell the truth.
Did I get everyone, Ms. Oslinky?
You did. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the video is yours.
Thank you, Chair. We'll get our PowerPoint pulled up here. All right, great. That looks perfect. Well, good morning, commissioners. My name's Kelsey Wazelinski with Jost Energy Law, and I, along with my partner, Jamie Jost, represent PDC Energy in the Fairfield OGDP before you today in docket number 2505000096. PDC would like to thank the ECMC staff and director for their hard work on this application, Ms. Rothy for her clarifying remarks on the director's recommendation, CDPHE and CPW for the consistent engagement and communication, as well as Director Kavanaugh for his comments today, and Weld County for its participation through the 1041 WOGLA process and support of the Fairfield OGDP. As a brief overview, the Fairfield OGDP proposes 3 new and amended oil and gas locations: the new Ollie Federal location for 12 wells, the amended Carrot Federal location for 28 wells, and the amended Monson Federal location for 24 wells. The development of 64 total horizontal wells is proposed within one approximate 8,334.89 acre drilling and spacing unit for the Niobrara, Fort Hays, Codell, and Carlisle formations. The proposed DSU contains federal minerals, and PDC has filed federal APDs with the BLM, which are currently in environmental review. The locations are in Weld County, and as Director Kavanaugh stated, the 1041 WOGLA permits have been approved. The review of the Fairfield OGDP falls under Rule 301A, as there are no RBUs within 2,000 feet of the working pad surface for any of the 3 locations. Further, the locations are not sited within HPH. As PDC will elaborate on today, the locations are sited within a disproportionately impacted community, and there are RBUs within 1/2 mile of each location. PDC engaged in robust consultation with the RBU owners, surrounding community members, Weld County, CPW, CDPHE, and the ECMC throughout the pre-application and post-completeness stages of this OGDP. As PDC will describe, PDC held 3 community meetings and addressed questions and feedback from the public. In addition, PDC conducted a detailed ALA for each location. PDC will describe its consultations, ALA, and commitments to protective development in detail today, but to highlight a few points, the 64 wells will produce into an existing, consolidated, and electrified and tankless facility. The drill rig will be powered by Tier 4 or equivalent engines, and PDC will use Group 3 oil-based mud. PDC has 3-phase takeaway for oil, gas, and produced water. PDC has committed to a robust set of CDPHE recommended BMPs on the Fairfield locations, and PDC commits to plug, abandon, and reclaim 80 legacy wells and 33 facilities, resulting in a net reduction of 109 acres after the Fairfield locations are in production. In terms of the Fairfield OGDP submittal, PDC complied with all notice requirements for the OGDP by providing written notice of the completeness determination, the application and corresponding exhibits, and the notice of hearing to the interested parties, and published the OGDP notice in Weld County. No formal petitions were filed and no public comments were received. The director determined that the Fairfield OGDP complies with all applicable requirements of the Commission's rules and provided a conditional recommendation of approval. The conditional recommendation requests that PDC incorporate 1 COA on the Form 2A, which is that operator will submit and have approved a Form 4 compliant with Rule 905 requirements prior to commencing completion operations if temporary mobile produced water recycling equipment will be placed on location, or if produced water will be sourced from connected gathering lines. PDC agrees to incorporate the recommended COA into the 3 Form 2As. The topics to be addressed in the presentation today are listed here. I will continue with the OGDP overview before passing it over to the PDC team to discuss the remaining topics. This map shows the entire OGDP boundary in green, which includes the 3 locations and the approximate 8,334.89 acre mineral development area. The Fairfield OGDP represents a consolidated approach to developing over 8,000 acres of minerals. The Fairfield OGDP proposes an existing electrified production facility and will result in less than 6.87 acres of surface disturbance by the time the wells are in production. The Monson Federal location, which is on the southern portion of the OGDP boundary, amends an existing location and proposes 24 new wells with 2.37 acres of surface disturbance after interim reclamation. The proposed Monson location is within 1/2 mile of 6 RBUs and is within 1 mile of an RBU in a DI community. PDC will describe the ALA for this location and protective BMPs in the presentation. The Carrot Federal location also amends, I think back 1 slide. Thank you. The Carrot Federal location also amends an existing location and proposes 28 new wells with approximately 3 acres of surface disturbance after interim reclamation. The proposed Carrot location is within 1/2 mile of 10 RBUs, is within 1 mile of an RBU in a DI community, and is immediately upgradient of a field verified wetland. Again, PDC will describe the ALA for this location and protective BMPs. And finally, the Ollie Federal location on the northern portion of the OGDP is a new proposed location and proposes 12 wells with approximately 1.49 acres of surface disturbance after interim reclamation. The proposed Ollie location is within 1/2 mile of one RBU, is within 1 mile of an RBU in a DI community, and is sited within a floodplain. PDC has an approved floodplain permit with Weld County. PDC will describe the ALA for this location and protective BMPs in the presentation. On my last slide, I would like to highlight the significant consolidation represented by the Fairfield OGDP. Compared to PDC's original design for this area, PDC eliminated 67 of the 131 planned wells and the 3 planned facilities, resulting in 64 total wells, with production being consolidated to an existing electrified facility. The Fairfield OGDP will result in 48.62 acres of initial disturbance during drilling and completions, reduced to just 6.87 acres after interim reclamation. In addition, the Fairfield development will result in the plugging, reclamation, and decommissioning of 80 legacy wells and 33 facilities, resulting in approximately 120 surface acres reclaimed. PDC would remove more surface than what is proposed to be added and remaining in the long term. The proposed locations are outside of 2,000 feet of all RBUs, and there are no schools, childcare centers, or high occupancy building units within 1 mile of any location. I will now pass the presentation over to Tammy Waters.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. The Fairfield development has undergone several years of planning and multiple design iterations. Early concepts included 3 well pads, 3 production facilities, and a higher well count. After reviewing the entire development area and nearby projects, we streamlined the design by routing all production to an existing permitted centralized facility operated by Noble Energy. This facility will also be on grid power. This change eliminated the need for 3 new production facilities and significantly reduced surface impacts, about 28 acres less initial disturbance and 15 acres less long-term disturbance. The diagrams on this slide show the shift from the larger 2023 Monson design to the optimized 2025 layout, which uses a smaller, more efficient footprint. Overall, the design reduces acreage, truck traffic, mileage, and emissions while improving the efficiency of the entire development. This slide shows the projected schedule for each of the 3 Fairfield pads. Construction begins at the Ollie Fairfield Federal pad in Q4 2026, followed by the Carrot in early 2027 and the Monson in late 2027. Each location then progresses through drilling and completions in sequence, with all work extending into 2028. All dates are approximate and may shift based on permit approvals, rig availability, and scheduling needs. I'll now pass the presentation over to Corey Sheehan, Surface Land Representative.
Thanks, Tammy, and good morning, listeners. In the next portion of our presentation, I will discuss the alternate location analysis and siting work that PDC conducted when selecting the 3 proposed locations as the preferred locations in which to develop the Fairfield OGDP, as well as the extensive community outreach conducted by PDC to ensure the surrounding community is well informed on the proposed development plan. I'd like to start first with a summary of the pre-application meeting that was held on February 12, 2025, hosted by Weld County with ECMC, CPW, BLM, and CDPHE in attendance. In this pre-application meeting, we discussed the 3 proposed locations as well as potential alternates to these locations. No other locations were deemed more viable options to develop the Fairfield OGDP than the proposed locations. It was concluded that the 3 proposed locations met the intent of ECMC rules and regulations, as well as Weld County Code as it relates to oil and gas development. PDC received no objections from any of the agencies in attendance to proceeding with the Fairfield OGDP application and committed to submitting a detailed ALA with our OGDP application, which we'll review over the next 8 slides in today's presentation. Here we have a copy of the map that was utilized in the pre-application meeting to assess the Fairfield OGDP for viable surface locations in relation to existing receptors both in and near the proposed mineral development unit. As you will notice, there were limited options for surface locations in or near this proposed development area that were outside of 2,000 feet from existing RBUs. However, PDC was successful in securing 3 surface agreements in what essentially is the only 3 locations outside of 2,000 feet from 1 or more existing residential building units. While proximity to existing RBUs is a key consideration we look at in our preliminary location assessments, it is one of many considerations PDC utilizes to ensure our locations are the least potentially impactful to public health, safety, welfare, environment, and wildlife resources. Therefore, PDC assessed a total of 6 alternates in addition to the 3 proposed locations we see today as potential locations in which to develop the Fairfield OGDP. These 6 alternates being depicted as light blue boxes on the map, with the 3 proposed locations being depicted as pink or magenta colored locations on the map. On this slide, we can see the proposed Munson federal locations selected to develop the southern portion of the Fairfield OGDP, depicted in light blue, and 2 alternate locations PDC assessed depicted in purple. Alternate location 1 in section 19 on the map was deemed more impactful than the proposed location due to its disruption to 2 existing irrigation pivots, multiple RBUs within 2,000 feet, and access concerns being surrounded by 2 highways as well as an irrigation canal. In addition to these concerns, the surface owner of the subject property was not willing to execute a surface use agreement at this location. Alternate location 2 in section 21 on the map was the one additional location that PDC assessed to develop the southern portion of the proposed spacing unit, as this was the only other area in or near the development unit with portions of land outside of 2,000 feet from existing RBUs. However, once fully evaluated by PDC, it was determined the location would in fact have at least 5 RBUs within 2,000 feet. This location would have also required PDC to construct one additional location due to existing horizontal development in the south half of sections 21 and 22. This analysis led PDC to conclude the proposed location we see today is the preferred and least potentially impactful location in which to develop the southern portion of the Fairfield OGDP. We'll now look at the location specifics for the proposed Munson location, including the advantages and disadvantages that PDC identified through our analysis. The proposed location has 0 RBUs within 2,000 feet. There are 0 schools, childcare centers, high occupancy building units, or designated outdoor activity areas within 1 mile of the location. The location provided PDC the ability to consolidate our footprint for development and provided accommodating topography for an oil and gas location. It is outside of HPH, NSO, wetlands, and floodplain. It also provides for step-out lengths that maximize drilling and completion efficiencies. As mentioned, PDC has executed a surface agreement with the owner of this location. The disadvantages that PDC identified with this location is the temporary impact it will create to existing farming operations, its location within a DIC or disproportionately impacted community, and 2 non-residential building units within 2,000 feet. On this slide, you will see the proposed Carrot Federal location selected to develop the central portion of the Fairfield OGDP in section 17, outlined in light blue, and the one alternate that PDC assessed on the right side of the screen in section 14, outlined in purple. Alternate location 1 was in an area that was identified just outside of the proposed unit that had portions of land outside of 2,000 feet from existing RBUs. However, once fully evaluated by PDC, it was determined that the location would have at least 3 RBUs within 2,000 feet of the location. Additionally, the location was located partially in the floodplain and would have exceeded PDC's drilling capabilities to develop this portion of the Fairfield OGDP from just one location, requiring a second location to be constructed in order to fully develop. Here we take a closer look at the proposed location selected to develop the central portion of the Fairfield OGDP. The advantages associated with this location are the location being outside of 2,000 feet from existing RBUs, outside of high priority habitat, NSO lands, wetlands, and floodplain. PDC was able to obtain a surface use agreement for this location and was successful in designing that location to avoid long-term impacts to the surface owner's current and future farming operations for this property. The location does have an existing gas line and water line that PDC will be working to relocate prior to construction of the location, and is located within a DIC or disproportionately impacted community. It is also important to note that PDC designed this location for stormwater retention instead of detention in line with Weld County's drainage code to prevent stormwater from leaving the location during major storm events. This slide depicts the proposed Ollie location, which is planned to develop the northern portion of the Fairfield OGDP, as well as the 3 alternates that were assessed through PDC's ALA process as it relates to the proposed development area. PDC focuses attention on the center of this development area as it provided the most lands outside of 2,000 feet from existing RBUs. However, 2 locations on the east and west sides of the development area were also evaluated, as they did have small portions of land outside of 2,000 feet from RBUs as well. Alternate location 1 is owned by the same surface owner as the proposed location. It was an area that PDC assessed as a potential location outside of 2,000 feet from RBUs, as well as being outside of the floodplain that runs through the center portion of the development area. When further evaluated by PDC, it was determined that this location would have 1 RBU within 2,000 feet, And in addition to this, the surface owner requested that we utilize the field that the proposed location is instead of the field that the alternate location is in, as it was less impactful to their current and future plans for the property. Alternate location 2, on the west side of the proposed development area, stood out in our initial assessment as a potential location in which we could consolidate our operations to an area already being utilized for oil and gas development, in an effort to minimize the oil and gas footprint in the project area. However, during our assessment of this alternate, we discovered an active bald eagle nest in which the site would have been situated within the NSO boundary of. Alternate location 3 was in an area identified just outside the proposed development area that again had portions of land outside of 2,000 feet from existing RBUs. While we did confirm the location to have 0 RBUs within 2,000 feet, the location was confirmed to be within high priority habitat and would have exceeded our operational capabilities to develop this entire unit from one location, requiring a second location to fully develop. Here we'll take a deeper dive into the site specifics for the proposed ollie pad within the Fairfield OGDP, outlining the advantages and disadvantages that PDC identified through our alternate location analysis process. The location has 0 RBUs within 2,000 feet. It provides a consolidated single well pad for development of the entire development area. PDC has executed a surface agreement for this location, and the location is not located near a school or child care facility. Additionally, this location allowed us the ability to utilize an existing access road, minimizing our overall new disturbance in the project area. The disadvantages identified at this location were being located within a disproportionately impacted community, creating partial impacts to current and future farming operations, and being partially located within the floodplain. However, PDC has obtained an approved floodplain permit for this location from Weld County. With that, I'd like to now highlight the community outreach efforts conducted by PDC for the proposed Fairfield OGDP. PDC held 3 separate community meetings for the Fairfield OGDP as part of our permitting process, with the first community meeting held on March 18, 2025, the second on August 6, 2025, and the third and most recent community meeting held in December of 2025. Common questions asked at these 3 meetings related to the haul routes and roads PDC planned to utilize, questions regarding the proximity of the locations within the OGDP to residents' homes, if truck traffic would create noticeable vibrations, scheduling of operations, when the wells will be producing, and when mineral owners can expect to receive royalty payments, timelines for drilling, water well testing, and questions relating to owners' lease statuses. PDC has recognized and continues to recognize community outreach as an important aspect of the permitting process here in Colorado. On this slide, we outline the outreach efforts that have been conducted to date as it relates to the Fairfield OGDP, efforts that will continue throughout the life cycle of the proposed Fairfield project. For residents within 4,000 feet of the proposed 3 locations, PDC has conducted individual meetings with several of these owners, provided informational packets to both the owners and tenants of each RBU, and invited these individuals to each of our 3 community meetings, engaging with a total of 184 stakeholders. PDC has also engaged with parcel owners within 2,000 feet of the 3 proposed locations, sending pre-application notice letters and notice of hearings to each of the 20 parcel owners within 2,000 feet. In addition to these outreach efforts, PDC has provided personal points of contact to stakeholders in the area, conducted individual meetings with several of the residential building units along the haul routes, and provided residents with information for our community call line, as well as our community email, with additional information provided for our community website as well. Again, PDC's outreach efforts for these locations will continue as this OGDP progresses, and we look forward to continuing to engage with stakeholders in and near the Fairfield OGDP in order to provide updates on the status of this development. With that, I'll turn it back over to Tammy Waters to discuss the wildlife and environmental assessment of the Fairfield OGDP.
Thank you, Corey. I'll now discuss the key wildlife environmental considerations for the Fairfield OGDP. Although we were able to ensure the development is outside of big game high priority habitat, a very short section of the Ollie Federal Access Road falls within the half-mile bald eagle nesting buffer. We've coordinated with CPW to avoid construction during the active nesting period. The Ollie pad also lies within the FEMA 100-year floodplain. A Weld County floodplain permit has already been approved. In addition, the flow line routes from the Carrot and Monson pads cross Eaton Draw, which is designated as aquatic native species conservation waters. For these crossings, CPW approved our plans and we committed to bore the entire 500-foot buffer to avoid surface disturbance. Overall, this slide demonstrates the environmental coordination and mitigation already built into the project. Weld County is the relevant local government for the Fairfield OGDP. We show the local government approvals for each of the 3 Fairfield pads. All 3 1041 WOGLA applications were approved by Weld County on August 25th, 2025. These approvals confirm that each location meets the county's standards and requirements and provide the local authorization needed for the OGDP to move forward. On this slide, we outline the measures used to minimize odor and air quality impacts. All 3 pads will produce to an existing centralized tankless facility, which helps significantly reduce emissions. During drilling activities, use Tier 4 or equivalent engines, and Group 3 oil-based mud is used during the production stream, with unused fluid stored in closed upright tanks. We also avoid stockpiling drill cuttings on location and use pipeline takeaway for oil, gas, and water to reduce truck traffic. Automation on new wells and facilities further cuts down on vehicle trips. And finally, speed restrictions on location help reduce dust. On this slide, we outline how the Fairfield OGDP minimizes light and sound impacts during operations. Temporary sound walls will be installed around each pad to reduce noise and help shield light during drilling and completions operations. All lighting is directed downward and towards the center of the location to avoid spillover. We are using a quiet frac fleet to significantly reduce noise during completions. And once we move into production, there will be no permanent lighting on the pad. Where temporary lighting is needed, LED fixtures are used to minimize sky glow and reduce off-site visibility. This next slide highlights the measures we use to minimize water and land impacts. The tankless design helps reduce spills and leaks, and each location includes an engineered drainage design to manage stormwater effectively. We have also secured a CPW waiver for chemical storage within 500 feet of the ordinary high water mark for the Carrot location. We use toast with built-in secondary containment and perform regular AVO inspections to monitor for any issues. Altogether, these practices strengthen spill prevention and protect surrounding land and water resources. This slide highlights our automation and security features we use to reduce impacts during operations. All locations will be monitored 24/7 through our Integrated Operations Center, allowing for early detection of issues and reducing the need for on-site traffic. We also use advanced leak detection systems, including fixed infrared cameras for identifying leaks, smoke, or fire while enhancing site security. During drilling and completions, a guard shack is placed at the access road to manage site entry and support overall safety. PDC understands nearly all ESPs under Rule 316C, 2, 3, and 4 to be applicable and plans to comply with them as required. Some of the highlights are as follows. Tier 4 diesel drilling rigs. These upgrades were completed nearly a year in advance when it was strictly required by Reg 7. Natural gas-fired completions engines. Pipeline takeaway for gas, oil, and water, and a tankless facility design. This slide summarizes the practicability assessment and the enhanced systems and practices under Rule 316C for the Fairfield OGDP. The electrification ESPs technically apply, but the utility has confirmed that there is no available grid capacity in this area, making full electrification not practicable. Because the required power infrastructure does not exist and upgrades are outside of PDC's control, the utility could not guarantee the capacity or reliability needed to operate the sites. Even once upgrades do occur, they still may be insufficient for continuous operations. Although full electrification is not feasible, PDC continues to implement numerous measures that reduce NOx and VOC emissions, such as Tier 4 drilling rigs, natural gas-fired completions equipment, pipeline takeaway, tankless design, and mindful siting. These practices keep the project below its required NOx intensive targets. As a part of the project, PDC will plug and reclaim 80 legacy wells and decommission 33 facilities, restoring roughly 120 surface acres. After the new Fairfield locations move into production, this results in a net reduction of about 109 surface acres overall. This program also includes restoring approximately 15 acres within high priority habitat, along with notable reductions in emissions, about 6.97 tons per year of NOx and 12.83 tons per year of VOCs. Overall, this effort provides a significant environmental benefit and reduces long-term surface impacts. I'll now turn the presentation over to Kelsey for our conclusion.
Thank you, Tammy. PDC respectfully requests that the Commission approve the Fairfield OGDP application, the 3 Form 2As, and the corresponding drilling and spacing unit, and the requested relief set forth on this final slide. Thank you for your consideration of the testimony and evidence provided today. We have a panel of subject matter experts here on the hearing, so at this stage, I think we can take our PowerPoint down and everyone can be on camera for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Thanks everyone for visualizing themselves. The commissioners now have an opportunity to ask questions of the panel. Does any commissioner desire to start with any questions? Commissioner Cross.
Thank you, Chair Robbins. I want to ask to start off with one clarifying question. In the kind of the introduction to the OGDP, you talked about everything being sent to an electrified production facility. But then again, you went back and you just talked about the practicability for not being able to have electrified drilling and electrified production. Is it going to an electrified production facility?
Yes, Commissioner Cross, I'm happy to clarify that. It's the drilling rig engines are not practicable to be electrified, but the production facility is electrified.
Okay.
So I think it should also be noted that the production facility is not a part of this OGDP. This is only well pads. The production facility is off-site, already approved with the Greeley Crescent 1 OGDP, and we are routing production to there.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I confirmed that because I was understanding the practicability assessment to be part of all 3. Okay. So the other question I wanted to ask about was, could you go into a little bit more detail again, excuse me, about the Eagle's Nest? So you talked about one of the alternative locations being around an Eagle's Nest, and could you provide a little more detail on that?
Yeah, I can take that question, and thank you for the question, Commissioner Cross. This was early on in our ALA assessment of this development area, approximately 2 to 3 years ago. That was a nest that was not mapped at the time that we started our ALA process. So we just happened to identify that nest and an active bald eagle at the nest during the time we were scouting that location to see if it was viable for an oil and gas well pad. We proceeded with alerting CPW and notifying them of this discovery, and obviously deemed our alternate as not feasible due to its proximity to that nest.
And is that nest still active today?
I believe so, yes. I believe that is one that we discussed with the access to the Ollie location, which we have consulted with CPW about construction stipulations on that access, because a portion of it does fall within, I believe, the half-mile buffer of that same nest.
Okay. Those are my only questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cross. Others with questions of the panel? Commissioner Messner?
Thanks. Just to clarify a little bit, because there is contradicting information in the application associated with the existing production facility. So can you confirm that the existing production facility is currently electrified?
Yeah, thank you for the questioning, Commissioner. The production facility was approved with the Greeley Crescent OGDP, and it was required to be electrified as per that. And I don't know if power is currently there. I know we are in the construction process and that we have all the infrastructure to get it there. I think it's meters and things that still need to be installed.
Is anything currently producing to it or not yet?
I don't believe yet.
Okay. Because in your cumulative impacts analysis, it does indicate that you're going to try to electrify that production facility as practicable.
The OGDP was developed and submitted, months ago, and at that time the process was still ongoing.
No, I mean your cumulative impacts analysis associated with this OGDP. does identify that you're intending to use an existing production facility, but that it is there was no commitment that it was going to be electrified associated with the cumulative impacts analysis associated with this OGDP, but I did go back and review the Form 2A associated with the GC1, and I would agree it's required that that production facility be electrified. So I just want to, dot all the I's and cross all the T's here, that it's understood that irregardless of whether you're going to utilize it for this OGDP or not, that production facility is required to be electrified.
Yes, that is our understanding.
Okay. Thank you. That does help clarify some things. I will have questions for staff because I'm not sure that this is captured in the Form 2A and the BMPs that are associated with the Form 2A. And I'm still unsure because I'm not sure exactly when this change happened, whether or not the utilization of an existing production facility that is electrified is captured in any kind of calculations or evaluation that was done associated with the Form 2B either. I don't know if that was still utilizing the original contemplated production facilities at each of the locations, not grid powered or not. And so some clarification there would be helpful to make sure, again, that we're approving something that is accurate.
Yes, we absolutely did include the emissions of the existing facility in the cumulative impacts analysis. Part of that is also a removal of initially planned facilities. So removing 3 planned facilities and using the existing one actually ends up in a net reduction of emissions.
Okay. And so the emissions calculations then on the Form 2B would be accurate utilizing the existing production facility, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thanks for that. And then I think this is more of a comment, and I'm not going to get hung up on it for this particular OGDP application, but for me as a commissioner, a practicability assessment does have to come with evidence. And while I appreciate the explanation that there's not grid power available, and certainly it seems like that information probably came from the utility provider and it's provided in your practicability assessment, but there's no clear evidence backing up the statements that you're making in there as to whether or not the utility provider expressed that. There's no letter from the utility provider. There's no emails documenting any exchanges. There's no clarity as to what the actual issues are that would require that practicability assessment or back up the statements that you're making in that practicability assessment. And so to me, that's really not sufficient to back up what you're indicating in that practicability assessment. I think that there's enough benefit to this application that I'm not gonna hang it up, but that to me was a big discussion during the cumulative impacts rulemaking as to if we're going to have a practicability assessment and provide that flexibility in these enhanced systems and practices, that the practicability assessment had to provide enough evidence that it really did back up the statements that you're making that it is not practicable, and I didn't find it in this practicability assessment. So that's just a comment for now. So thank you, Mr. Chair. No further questions.
Thank you for the questions. Others with questions of the panel? Commissioner Ackerman?
Thank you, and appreciate your work on this application. I agree there's a lot of good work that's taken place here. And I apologize if you mentioned this briefly and I missed it while I was taking notes, but I just wanted to see if you had any update on the potential feasibility of using recycled produced water. You touched base on the potential or on the COA that staff requested associated with this concept. You mentioned that you continue to evaluate the feasibility of using recycled produced water. I just wanted to see if you have any kind of an update on the efforts you've made since the application process and whether that's increased or decreased your feasibility of potentially using recycled produced water.
Thank you, Commissioner. PDC has evaluated and continues to explore several options for sourcing of recycled water for completions operations in this OGDP. As the produced water from the proposed wells will be transported through several miles of flow lines to the existing E2309 facility, the gathering system near this facility has been identified as the only viable potential source of treated water. The alternative options PDC examined would unfortunately introduce significant truck traffic or require additional production equipment on the well pads to treat this water. Further complicating matters, the E2309 facility has limited space, making mobile on-site treatment of produced water not possible. PDC continues to examine other options in the area of this facility, and additional analysis will be needed before a final determination can be made on the viability of using recycled water in this OGDP.
Thank you, Mr. Blessing. That sounds a lot like you might be repeating it from your presentation, so I apologize if that's the case, but appreciate the clarification. I don't have anything further, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Further questions of the panel? All right, seeing no further questions, we move into the deliberation phase of our work today. Does any commissioner desire to initiate deliberations? Commissioner Messner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that the applicant has done a good job of proposing locations that are sited in reasonable areas. I think that the distance from sensitive receptors has been maximized, I think, to the greatest extent possible. I think that it was a good and creative solution to utilize an existing and required electrified production facility. I think that certainly helps avoid, minimize, and mitigate the potential impacts associated with 3 separate production facilities that are not electrified. I shared my thoughts about the practicability assessment. I don't think that anyone is saying incorrect things, but in order for there to be those statements made, I do think that there needs to be evidence that is provided to back up those statements. I do acknowledge that the 80 wells removed, the 33 facilities decommissioned, the 109-acre reduction. To me, that was very compelling as part of this, particularly understanding that this isn't a disproportionately impacted community. And that benefit certainly weighs heavily in the favor of approval of this application. I think I do need to get clarity from staff whether this electrification is or the utilization of the existing electrified facility as required by the approval of the OGDP at GC1 is actually captured in the BMPs associated with this Form 2A in the OGDP, because I'm not seeing it in there. If it is, and I certainly could be missing it. And that staff does concur that the Form 2B does also identify the appropriate considerations with the utilization of the existing electrified production facility, so that that's accurate as well. So I don't know if that needs to be a condition of approval or whether staff has enough time to identify that or suggest any language associated with capturing that as far as part of the Form 2A in this application. But otherwise, I do think it's an approvable application. Just want to make sure that we have all the committed to information captured in the appropriate forms.
Okay. When we suggest that we want staff to be thinking about something like that, we want to give them about a 10-minute break so that they can think through that with their attorney general, et cetera. But before we go there, does anyone have anything further relative to deliberative remarks? Commissioner Ackerman?
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate Commissioner Messner bringing those up. I do have just a couple of comments, and I wanted to thank PDC for working with CPW to identify and work around active raptor nests and eagle nests. This is not the first time that this group of companies has worked with CPW after they've identified an active nest, and I appreciate the proper reaching out to CPW and the proper mitigating practices that are employed in this application. I do find that their proposed actions fall within the recommendations of CPW's bald eagle timing recommendation for disturbances within 0.5 miles of a nest. I note also that they received the proper waiver from CPW on the ordinary high watermark issue. And I also noted that the plugging and reclaiming portion was impactful to me. Also included 15 acres of high priority habitat to be restored. And just wanted to verify that even though we had the discussion about produced water, I think that staff's proposed COA remains appropriate since it's already conditioned on if that is to occur, and just wanted to make sure that I'm on base there in case anyone feels differently about that. That's all I have. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Anything further? Commissioner Cross?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief. I agree with what my fellow commissioners have said thus far. I'll admit I'll just be comfortable if we can get some kind of COA that it is being electrified for a production facility, because I did not think that was clear. But that's my only additional comment.
All right. Seeing nothing further, it's 9:58. Staff and AG Boudreau will give you a little bit of time to work through those issues. Let's return at 10:10. Does that work, Mr. Boudreau? Great. All right, we are coming back to order. This is the Energy and Carbon Management Commission docket 2505-00095, an oil and gas development plan for PDC Energy entitled Fairfield OGDP. Mr. Boudreau, did you have a chance to chat with staff about some of the questions from commissioners?
I did, Mr. Chair, and staff is prepared to address Commissioner Messner's questions regarding the E2309 facility. Specifically, Julie Rothy and John Noto are happy to answer Commissioner Messner's questions.
All right, Ms. Rothy, thanks for reappearing with us. And Mr. Noto, good to have you with us as well.
Thank you for having me and for the questions. I want to start by clarifying that there is a small amount of production equipment on the 3 locations that are being proposed within this OGDP, and PDC has not proposed to electrify this equipment. However, the main production facility that all produced liquids will be piped to is the E23-09 facility, which is part of the GC1 OGDP. And on the 2A for that E23-09 facility, which has been approved already, there is a 2B requiring electrification. Excuse me, there's a BMP requiring electrification of that facility. The 2B in this OGDP application does include the additional emissions that will result from piping the produced fluid from these 3 proposed locations to the E23-09 facility. And that scenario, those emissions are calculated based on the scenario that location is electrified as required by the 2A. However, there's no specific field on the 2B that states declaratively that E23-09 facility is electrified. We did come up with a COA that reaffirms the BMP that has been applied to the E23-09 facility 2A that could be applied to these 3 2As if the commission decides to do that. Thank you.
Follow-up questions? Commissioner Cross?
Thank you, Chair Robbins, and thank you, Ms. Rothy. I just want to confirm, as you talked about the equipment that's on site, for example, as I'm looking at the Monson location, I'm seeing 3 separators. 3 separators, 1 MLVT, and 3 meter sales buildings. Is the 3 separators is the production equipment that you're talking about that will be on site, correct?
That is correct. And my understanding is those are test separators.
Okay. Thank you.
Further questions of staff? All right, seeing none, do we want to continue with deliberations? Does anyone desire to make a motion? Commissioner Ackerman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd be happy to make a motion. I think AAG Boudreaux can help out with identifying the COAs, but my motion would be for approval.
Thank you,
Hey,
Commissioner Acton. Sorry, Mr. Chair, go ahead.
No, I
Apologies.
just said recognizing you. Go ahead.
Thanks. So, assuming the commission is satisfied with the existing BMP as to the E2309 facility, my recommendation would be a motion to approve the OGDP currently before you with the one condition of approval in the director's recommendation, which states operator will submit and have approved a Form 4 compliant with Rule 905 requirements prior to commencing completion operations if temporary mobile produced water recycling equipment will be placed on location or if produced water will be sourced from connected gathering lines.
Commissioner Ackerman?
Yeah, so moved, Mr. Chair, pending any discussion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll second the motion. All right, we now have a motion and a second. Next is discussion on the motion. Commissioner Oath.
Thanks. Can I just ask a question? AAG Boudreaux, could you share with us what the COA is that y'all worked up during the interim and for us to at least consider whether or not we feel like that would be helpful?
Sure, it's very straightforward. The E23-09 facility will be tankless and electrified, which is also the BMP already attached to that facility.
Okay, so it's already a BMP attached to that facility and it's an enforceable condition.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Further discussion on the motion, Commissioner Messner?
I'd like to actually adopt that BMP because it's a different BMP than is in the GC1, and I think is more specific and identifies the expectation more clearly than the BMP associated with the GC1. So I think that makes sense to me. Commissioner Ackerman would be interested in modifying his motion.
Yeah, and maybe it would be easier, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to withdraw that motion and defer if we have another motioner that wants to include that. I'm not against it. I don't necessarily find it to be necessary, but I'm happy to defer and withdraw my motion if somebody would like to make that motion.
Hey, AG Boudreaux, we have a motion and a second. How do we undo that?
So if you want to add an additional COA, it's possible for Commissioner Ackerman to amend his motion with that being seconded to add the additional COA. I believe Ms. Wozlinski has her hand up.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Hold on just a sec, Ms. Wozlinski. All right, well, we'll go ahead and recognize you, Ms. Wozlinski.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate the discussion. I think PDC's opinion is that that COA language already is embedded in a Form 2A that is not a part of this OGDP. So we would have some concerns about adopting a COA that's already on a pad that is not subject to this hearing. So I wanted to raise that. And we believe it's very clear. There's multiple aspects within the Fairfield OGDP filing and cumulative impacts plan that everything will go to that E29 or that existing facility, which is electrified. So that is a commitment. So I wanted to voice that concern.
All right, with that point raised, commissioners, do we want to respond? Commissioner Oath.
Yeah, I guess I would like to ask a follow-up of Ms. Wozlinski. If it's already something that PDC is committed to and bound by, what's the concern?
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's a procedural and legal concern with having a condition of approval on an OGDP when the commitment already exists on a 2A that was part of a separate OGDP. It's duplicative, it's not necessary, and the commitment is there and enforceable.
But from a practical standpoint, is there any problem with it?
The commitment itself is not a problem, but it's already been committed to.
So if it's already been
Or
committed
just
to, what's the-
duplicative, not legal.
Yeah.
Duplicative. I think there's also a concern about an OGDP that's already been adjudicated before you and approved. with a commitment on it, adding a second commitment to a pad that already exists.
Commissioner Ackerman, I saw you raised your hand.
No, I was just going to ask a similar clarification point as Commissioner Oath. My concern there and why I offered to withdraw the motion would be that, while it's duplicative, I'm not as worried about that. But if it differs at all in our COA language from what was already adopted, I do understand a potential, conundrum there. And so I don't know that AG Boudreau answered whether I can easily withdraw a motion or whether that motion needs to be voted on, and so I think in concept, I don't think any of us have any trouble with what's happening here. I just want to make sure that it's enforceable in all ways and that's as clear as possible.
Thank you, Commissioner Ackerman. I'll try to address each of the issues one by one. So I agree that the commitment for the E2309 facility to be tankless and electrified is already in place and enforceable. And it's also procedurally not a part of this OGDP. Currently, the motion is that the commission approve the OGDP with the COA language that I described, and that motion has not been amended to include the E2309 facility being tankless and electrified. I think you can withdraw that motion and have someone make a new motion. The other option would be if you want to include the E2309 facility COA, you can amend your motion. So I think you have either option.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, it's not my preference to include that in my motion.
All right, so we continue to have the motion and the second on the table. Commissioner Messner?
So I'm not going to hang this up. I don't think that even the applicant has fully understood what the commitment was in the GC1, as their cumulative impacts analysis on this OGDP indicates that PDC is working with the utility provider to electrify the existing production facility, and if successful, will utilize grid power in order to minimize fossil fuel power production equipment, excluding external combustion sources as practicable. If there was a clear understanding that what was required as part of the GC1 application, then I find it interesting that that be included in the cumulative impacts analysis for this application, which is why I think that providing the clarity that the expectation is that there is an electrified production facility, that the product from this OGDP is going to, in order to minimize the cumulative impacts associated with this, makes sense to me, which is why I'm bringing it up. But I don't know as it's duplicative, but rather clarifies what the intent of the operator is in this particular situation, as the operator, at least in their written submittals, contradicts itself in a number of places. And so,
Okay, with that clarification, we continue to have a motion and a second to approve. Is there further discussion on that?
Just to clarify, Mr. Chair, I am willing to withdraw that motion if other commissioners feel strongly enough that they'd like to put a motion on the table. Otherwise, I'm also willing to vote on that motion.
All right. Does any other commissioner desire to weigh in on what we've got before us at this point? Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and take a vote on the motion. All right. Seeing none, no further discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Is there any no votes? All right. The motion carries. With that, we've concluded our agenda for today. Thank you, Ms. Wazelinski, for the presentation. Thanks to staff for being available multiple times today to help us through this and for the good work that got us to this approved motion. With that, I would move to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. See you guys in 2 weeks. Next week is canceled because we didn't have any business before us. Thanks.